Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down the big stories. And today, we are diving headfirst into one of the most audacious, multi-billion-dollar bets a CEO has ever made. A bet on Bitcoin that was either going to be an act of corporate genius or a complete and epic disaster. Yeah, let's just start with that. Can you imagine losing $6 billion in a single day? I mean, really think about that. This is the story of a man who faced exactly that kind of risk. And to understand why he would even put his company in that position, we got to go back to the beginning. So this is Michael Saylor, and you need to know he is not your typical CEO. He's an MIT-trained engineer who literally studied spaceship design. He's a longtime tech CEO, sure, but he's also a huge science fiction fanatic. And that background, well, it's pretty crucial to understanding everything that happened next. So by early 2020, his software company, MicroStrategy, was about as stable as it gets. I mean, they were sitting on $500 million in cash, had a solid business, and $1 billion valuation. Everything was fine. But then the pandemic hit and the whole world got turned completely upside down. Saylor saw this really bizarre paradox playing out. For Main Street, it was a crisis. Businesses were shutting down. But for Wall Street, it was a boom time. Low interest rates meant stocks and property values were just soaring. And that's when he had this realization. His company's $500 million cash pile was basically melting away like an ice cube on a hot sidewalk. He felt like his company was facing this huge moment, an existential choice, really. There were three very different and very stark paths for the future. The options he saw were pretty grim. There was the fast death, just give the cash back to shareholders and basically shrink the company. Or the slow death, just sit back and watch the companies slowly wither away. Saylor, well, he wasn't interested in either of those. So that left him looking for a third option. Something totally new, a hard asset that could actually survive all this economic chaos. So he started thinking big, science fiction big. What if he could find something like digital gold? A sort of bank in cyberspace that no government on Earth could mess with or devalue. And that exact line of thinking led him right to one place: Bitcoin. Okay, let's dive into this because what happened next was absolutely unprecedented. In August of 2020, MicroStrategy did something that no publicly traded company had ever dared to do before. They started by taking half of all their cash, $250 million, and buying Bitcoin with it. This move alone sent massive shockwaves through the financial world. You had a serious public company treating what most people still called magic internet money as a core treasury asset. It was wild. But they didn't stop there, not even close. After getting basically no pushback from their shareholders, they just doubled down. They went and bought another $175 million worth. So in just a few weeks, their total bet was already up to $425 million. And believe it or not, they were just getting warmed up. The company then started taking on massive amounts of debt, borrowing money at practically zero interest. And they weren't using it to invest in their software business. Nope. They were using it to buy even more Bitcoin. And here it is, the result of that enormous bet. Over 4 years, the company poured a staggering $7.5 billion into Bitcoin. And today, that investment has doubled. It's now worth somewhere between $14 and $15 billion. I mean, to put that in perspective, MicroStrategy's stock has outperformed nearly every major company you can think of. We're talking Apple, Amazon, even the AI behemoth NVIDIA. So, that's the what. But the really crucial question here is why? Why on earth would you take such a mind-boggling risk? Well, Saylor's reasoning is based on this really fundamental and pretty radical view of money itself. He basically believes that traditional currencies, what people call fiat money, are fundamentally broken. He says they're designed to lose value over time because of something called monetary inflation. That's just the constant printing of more money, which makes every single dollar you hold worth a little bit less. He uses this brilliant analogy. It's a little gruesome, but it really makes the point. Think of your money as your life's economic energy. Holding that energy in cash, it's like you're an athlete who is constantly, slowly being bled. Every single day, you're getting just a little bit weaker. And his view of power is just as unconventional. He uses this really provocative analogy to argue that traditional wealth is actually very vulnerable. Bitcoin, in his mind, is a totally new kind of power. It's a technological force that can't be confiscated or diluted, which makes it a completely different kind of asset. So, where does all this lead? What does this mean for the future of wealth, of property? Saylor frames this whole massive opportunity with one final, really powerful metaphor: Manhattan in cyberspace. He makes his point by asking a really simple question: is it too late to invest in Manhattan? For hundreds of years, people have worried they were too late to buy property there, and yet its value just keeps on rising. Why? Because it's finite, it's scarce, and it's universally desirable. He argues that Bitcoin is the Manhattan of cyberspace. It's the ultimate finite digital property that he believes will become a foundation of the future global economy. And his incredible bet leaves all of us with the question: what is the future of property? And are we already too late for the next Manhattan?